Hello and welcome to another episode of Test, Optimize, and Scale. It's my privilege to have Will Ford, founder and president of LaunchBoom, the top reward crowdfunding agency, on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for thanks so much for having me here. I'm really excited to be here, and I can't wait to dive in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I personally have been very impressed by your background, everything you've done, pre-LaunchBoom, why LaunchBoom was created, excited to get into all the tactics for crowdfunding today, but figured we could start with you and your story.
Yeah, Jason. So just to give everyone a lot more background here as to kind of who I am and why LaunchBoom, I am a serial entrepreneur. I've built several companies from the ground up, and I've been super fortunate to have a couple really big exits along the way. In 2015, I sold my last business. And right after I exited, one of my advisors asked me to help him and a Navy SEAL launch a consumer product. And at the time, I was already launching projects on Kickstarter, on Indiegogo, and I asked him, hey, what about crowdfunding? Why not take this awesome consumer product and why not pre-sell it first, validate demand, and then raise more capital so you can place a larger volume order with your manufacturer. And with economies of scale, if you can place a larger volume order, you usually get much more aggressive price breaks. So it helps you make a much larger profit margin per unit. And so my advisor at the time said, Will, that sounds great, but I know nothing about crowdfunding. Why don't you run this for us? And so that's basically how I got connected to my partners here at LaunchBoom today. At the time, they had a great marketing agency in San Diego, and they were creating great videos, great websites, but there wasn't really a business model there. They were kind of jumping in and out of deals. There wasn't really like a hard focus as the type of projects they would take on. So when I met with them, I said, hey guys, why don't we work together and let's have a huge crowdfunding campaign? And in working through that process, what I realized was that there was just a much bigger opportunity within crowdfunding. This was back in 2015, and it was growing the crowdfunding industry by leaps and bounds. Literally, like the whole industry was doubling year in, year out, has been doing so ever since I started this business in 2015. And so the opportunity I saw was, why not support entrepreneurs, anyone looking to launch a new product, and actually help them really set themselves up for bigger outcomes, more successful launches. Because at the time, I was looking for a LaunchBoom to help me. And I did a lot of research, and I found some digital marketing agencies out there that were doing bits and pieces of what we do today, but there was no one really stepping in and figuring it all out first to really properly prepare these entrepreneurs to go have these massive outcomes on Kickstarter, on Indiegogo. So 2015, LaunchBoom was born. We decided to build the number one crowdfunding agency in the world, and over the last 7 years, we've done that. It's been a lot of work, a lot of learnings along the way, Jason. And really from a high level, just for everyone here who's not familiar with crowdfunding or launching products on Kickstarter, on Indiegogo, really what we do here at LaunchBoom, the whole idea is let's build a hyper-focused audience of people that are ready to buy your product before you go live on Kickstarter or Indiegogo. And in doing so, when you turn on the crowdfunding campaign, we can get the entire campaign funded, usually within the first hour, every single time. Because what we're doing is we're setting a funding goal that we control based on that pre-launch preparation. And when we do this, our goals on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, we don't set $1 million goals. In most cases, we don't even set $100,000 goals. Our goals are usually somewhere between 10 and 50,000, predicated upon what we know we can drive within that first hour after launch. So when we go live, we get the entire campaign funded, and then we become the most popular project on the platform. So now we get top placement, and then we get this massive organic boost to the tens of millions of people already there looking for super cool new consumer products. And then what happens is that's the LaunchBoom effect that I always tell everyone we work with, especially first-time crowdfunding campaigners, is that the LaunchBoom effect is the most important, because once you hit that funding goal, you get this massive organic boost to the organic audiences already on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. and then your campaign can scale super fast behind that. So most of our campaigns here at LaunchBoom always do hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, and we're able to do that fairly quick, usually within a few months.
So you have this successful exit, the dream of many entrepreneurs. You're starting to look at crowdfunding saying, wow, this is where the future of launches are going. You're able to build this audience, take them to a live offering, be able to hit the goal in the first hour, which I have to tell you as a marketer is amazing. And I've learned a lot about launches from crowdfunding and make comparisons to an iPhone launch or a theatrical film launch and getting people really fascinated with that day and ready to take action that day. But I know the conversion rates, and to think of $10,000 to $15,000 in the first hour, getting in the #1 spot on Kickstarter and Indiegogo's algorithms, tapping into those audience of, as you said, tens of millions. It's sheer powerful marketing tactics that you're rolling out there.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And then, furthermore, I think, Jason, why we get along so well is, we share a very similar philosophy. Let's test. And then after we are done with the testing and we know we can win, then let's launch. Or in your case, optimize, right? And then from there, let's scale hard. Let's scale fast. And we'll talk about that a little later. But yeah, within LaunchBoom, the truth is, Jason, when I first started this business, my original model, it was a good model, but it was extremely flawed. And what I mean by that is in the beginning, I would say, you know what, Jason, I love your product. Let's work together. Give me $50,000 and I'll turn that into $500,000 or more in pre-sales through Kickstarter and Indiegogo. And you'd say, wow, well, that sounds great. That's exactly what I'm looking to do. But what's the 50 grand for? And I would say, well, 25 will go into the marketing assets, the video production that we need to create the ads and to manage the campaign. And then the other 25 will be the ad budget to drive the traffic, to drive the conversions. And you'd be like, okay, that makes sense. Let's do it, right? Now, the issue with that model was in the beginning, I thought this was going to be a lot easier than it actually is. And I thought this was going to be like a cookie cutter process where I could just plug and play every consumer product through this model and get that type of outcome. But I couldn't have been more wrong, right? Because what I learned is that every product is unique and different, even if it's my client that I've worked with on 10 launches, because every product has different margins, has different average order values, honestly has different demand, different audiences that care about it. So what we ended up doing shortly after we founded LaunchBoom, we went through this massive growth, mainly because Kickstarter and Indiegogo. I personally went to Kickstarter's office in Brooklyn, New York. I went to Indiegogo's office in San Francisco. I said, hey guys, I'm Will. This is why my launches are doing so well. And they said, Will, this is great because we don't do that much with the entrepreneurs today. And why don't we send any campaigner that needs help to you guys, take them through your preparation pre-launch process, and then basically it's going to help them have bigger launches where we all win on the back end, right? So it really helped open up the floodgates to tons of lead gen and deal flow early on. So to give you an idea, like 2015, we launched 15 launches, right? That was a huge year for us. We were still learning a lot. 2016, we launched over 50 campaigns. We went through like a lot of growth. And that's when I realized that my model was flawed. I'm like, oh my God, Jason, basically like I'm not even having a 50% success rate with my launches because some ads would scale, others wouldn't, right? And then in January 2017, Jason, this is when we came up with like the game changer, which is our testing system. So now when you think of LaunchBoom, think of it like it being a big funnel, and we see literally thousands of projects every month right now. We've got clients in 43 countries all over the world, and we're working with the coolest, best entrepreneurs out there, for real. Now, everyone comes in every day, and they all say, Will, I want $1 million crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter, Indiegogo. Do it for me. And I tell everyone the same thing. I have no idea whether or not I can actually deliver that until you allow me some time to do some testing. Let me take the product through my system, let me run some ads, and let me get some data out. And then if I get good data, meaning that I can scale your ads and I can find huge demand through Facebook and Instagram, well, great. Now I'll take you into LaunchBoom, I'll take a bigger budget, I'll make your video, and let's go big, because now I know we both can make money. Make sense?
Based on the analytics, based on the numbers, it's
It's
showing you
all
directly in the reports.
it's all data driven now, right? So we actually spend like the hardest work we do in truth is the testing. We spend about 2 to 3 months testing every new project. And in order for us to get started, we do need a prototype that looks good enough for us to photograph. So part of the testing process is our clients will send us a prototype. We do a photo shoot here at LaunchBoom Studios. We have our own studio, our own creative team. And then what we do is we convert those assets into Facebook ads, Instagram ads, and we build lead and reservation funnels. And so what we're doing is we're basically creating dozens of assets specific to every audience that we think could be the ideal customer or consumer. And then we test it. We figure out where we're getting the clicks. And what we're doing, which is totally pioneered the industry, is in the beginning we used to just take leads. We'd just drive a click to a landing page that would build and would say, join our VIP community, be the first to know when we launch, enter your email. We just collect emails, right? That was great, but on the lead funnel, on average, we get about 4% conversions. So if you have 10,000 leads, we know that we'd be able to drive about 400 sales from that funnel. Now, where we took this to a whole nother level was we implemented the reservation funnel behind it. So as soon as you opt in and become a lead, Jason, we then pull you into a lead offer where we say, hey, Jason, the first 1,000 backers are going to get a lower price and early delivery. So if you're interested in getting the best deal before we go to Kickstarter or Indiegogo, all you have to do is take your credit card out and place a $1 money back guarantee deposit, and you're going to be locked into the better deal before we launch, right? So we give them huge value, but what we're really doing is we're building the most qualified audience you can build to support any launch because we get a much stronger conversion. To be conservative, a quarter or more of all of our reservation funnels will actually convert into a sale, right? So if I only have 4,000 reservations before your launch, conservatively, we have another 1,000 sales on top of the leads, right? So this is why we're driving bigger launch booms, if that all makes sense.
Absolutely. So off 10,000 email signups, the leads, would you get about 4,000 that are part of the reservation list?
Oh, that's interesting. So I actually look at the funnels being different, right? Because we're
Okay.
gonna have a lot of leads that don't convert into reservations.
Okay.
So right, so the leads that convert into reservations actually they still live within the lead funnel, but now they're actually a reservation, right?
Okay.
So I'd say that's a really good question. So I'd say like of all the leads that come through, every project's going to be a little bit different with what converts
Sure.
into a reservation, and that's all predicated on the lead offer, right? So
Mhm.
I'd say the big advantage we have today with the Test Boom system, excuse me, we call it Test Boom, right? It's more aligned with our branding, so it's Test Boom, Launch Boom, Scale Boom.
Mhm.
But when we do the testing, what we're also doing with that reservation system is we're able to test different pricing,
Mhm.
yeah, different lead offers to actually figure out like what that sweet spot is, what that average order value needs to be to maximize the conversion, right? Because sometimes, Jason, it doesn't make sense to lower the price.
Mhm.
In fact, sometimes we've had more success raising the price. And a great example of that would be this great team out of Sri Lanka, and they have this product called Spring, Spryng. And if you go to Indiegogo, you can still see the campaign there. But they had this like leg compression wrap, and it's a great product. And when we initially tested it, all the data points were super strong, except for the reservation funnel. We're taking everyone all the way through, but no one was giving us the dollar. And we did a lot of like research into the vertical, and we're like, why is this happening? And what we realized was that all the competitors to this product were selling for thousands of dollars a unit, where they wanted us to run it at a $99 price point because their cost of goods sold with packaging was about 30 bucks. So they still had a great margin at 99. But the problem was the consumers are smarter now than ever. And consumers were like, wait a minute, this looks like a knockoff cheapo product if it's only 99. This isn't going to work, it's going to break, etc. So I asked if I could increase the price to 189. And so I ran a new lead funnel at 189, even though their cost of goods sold remains the same at 30 bucks. And it was the best performing reservation metrics we've ever seen, Jason. Like, for example, like that campaign, if you go to Indiegogo right now, did well over 1 million in pre-sales. And our friends in Sri Lanka love us, right? Because we just basically doubled their margins, more than doubled their margins, right?
And with that closed loop system, in the sense of we're testing the audience, and with their findings, we're able to tweak the offering, which I love because it's not just crowdfunding at that point. You're physically building out a more effective business model for them. You're having a massive first month via crowdfunding. I mean, that would be so difficult to hit those numbers from 0 to, let's say, 1 million in a 30-day window, which I know you guys have a portfolio of campaigns where you've done that for. So just across the board, effectiveness, and I think a lot that everyone can take from those findings alone.
Yeah, Jason, I mean, I'd say just to simplify it, really, since we implemented the test boom system in January 2017, the beauty of the model now is we have a 100% success rate with
Wow.
LaunchBoom launches. Yeah, meaning that after the test, we have so much data now that we can show our clients, okay, listen, this is how much we can realistically raise. This is how much profit you're going to make per unit that moves through the system at that type of raise. And as long as we know they're going to make money, then we sign the LaunchBoom deal.
Mm-hmm.
So now what we're doing is we're making data-driven decisions to make sure that all of our crowdfunding campaigns are all successful. So since January 2017, we do have a 100% success rate, which is awesome. It's the
Wow.
whole purpose of the test. And then what happens is after the launch boom, after the Indiegogo on demand or Kickstarter, then what happens is a lot of our clients want to keep growing. They want to keep, driving their businesses forward. The launch is only the beginning.
Yeah.
So then once we get through the launch, we actually have an e-commerce team where we custom build on Shopify, and that's called Scale Boom. So for us, it's really easy to take that crowdfunding client over to e-commerce because we just spent months becoming the experts on the digital marketing side. So what we find is that we usually get better conversions on the e-com side because now we have more control because we're building the actual site, right? So we can do more split testing with different checkout processes, things like that. So now we already know how to maximize traffic, but our conversions get much stronger as a result. So that's how our model works. And it's honestly why we've been able to grow so fast these last few years is because the test is everything. And another way to look at it too, Jason, is like, honestly, like I wish I had this system 10 years ago, right? Because like if we reverse roles in like your launch boom and I had this awesome new, cell phone case I want you to test, like I would be happy to give you my prototype, give you a small amount of money, have you take about 2 to 3 months to come back to me and say, hey, Will, there's a lot of demand here and it's worth putting more of your time and more of your money into the deal. All I'm doing is I'm just mitigating everyone's risk now with all these new product launches.
And you're not overpromising, which is a downfall of many digital agencies. I'm sure you've heard it. Saying, maybe going back to some of the 2015 discussions, I know I was in them, where, hey, do you think this product can raise 100K? And you're basing it on no data, where now you're like, hey, we're going to do a test process. We're going to do all of these different iterations in terms of graphics, the offering. We're going to see how the audiences respond. At that point, LaunchBoom can come back to you and say, we're going to be able to do this. We've had a 100% success rate. We want to play for these goals. We can ramp it up from there and see how high we can take it. Then from there, could have scaled discussions, or could amplify even further because we have a longer timeline. We're able to continue to build off what we're doing in the e-commerce world.
Yeah, Jason, like spot on, man. It's like to your point, integrity in the crowdfunding
Yes.
industry is very low, right? There's all these underground digital marketers that'll be like, Jason, oh,
Unfortunately.
we're gonna raise millions, man. Just give me your money, man, and I'll take this on. And it's literally a crapshoot. It's literally a crapshoot. And so again, earlier when I first started in the crowdfunding world, like I said, I was trying to find a launch boom, and I actually worked with some of these agencies that were in the space at the time, and I got burned left and right. And that's when I realized like there is a bigger opportunity to come in here and actually build a full service agency that actually supports the entrepreneur from start to finish because it didn't exist. There are all these like predatorial models out there. I won't say any names, but they'd be like, oh, you know what, Jason? You did all the heavy lifting. You figured out the messaging. It looks like your live campaign has raised $250,000, but you've stalled. Let me come in. I'll put my ad spend in. I'll keep driving more traffic, but now I'm going to take 30% of your whole campaign, including what you already raised. And that's predatorial because they're taking all the margin out.
Correct.
And again, and they're just putting their client at such a disadvantage. And I hated that model because I was the client on one deal and I got burnt and I'm like, this is not the right way. And so anyway, LaunchBoom, it's taken years to build out the team, the systems, and to really make this model super tight. And again, there were a lot of headaches along the way with any startup, right? And I will say the biggest innovation though has not only been the testing system, but also like the reservation system, building better qualified audiences, getting better conversions when we launch, and really mastering the crowdfunding launch on the reward-based side when it comes to Indiegogo and Kickstarter. And so we've done that, right? So now I'm always trying to add more value to the clients that we work with. And everyone's like, Will, you're crushing the returns on my ads. Like, why can't you just keep managing it and just help me build my e-commerce business? Mm-hmm. So that was like the natural next step for us. So we built that division out a couple of years ago, and honestly, it's been working really, really well.
Now, do you see a lot of groups using both platforms, Kickstarter and Indiegogo? And I don't know if there's any politics around that, but just as part of the scale, do you see additional crowdfund campaigns, be it on the same platform or another one later down the line?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So, all right. So you're going to love this. I'll give you a lot of great information. So like when I started the business, Kickstarter was the holy grail, right? So the truth was, if you came into LaunchBoom, would say, okay, we're going to launch on or we're going to launch on Kickstarter. We're going to basically run a 30-day campaign, tap that audience first, and then when we're done, we're going to take it over to Indiegogo on demand, and we'll continue the pre-sale, and then we'll tap into a whole other community behind it, right? And that worked really well for like the first few years, and then Indiegogo started knocking at the door, being like, "Yo, Will, like we're really strong in these verticals and categories, and if you skip Kickstarter and launch with us first, we're actually going to support you more and your client. We're going to give you some internal promotions, newsletter placements. Like we're going to help you drive more traffic." At the end of the day, Jason, I just want what my client wants, the best outcome. Right. So I'd say like about 2018, we started kind of splitting up the launches. You know, certain launches would go with Kickstarter if it was in certain categories that were really the strongest on Kickstarter. And then like the hardware tech, that vertical, that does super well on Indiegogo. So we started there. We started launching those projects with Indiegogo and having much better returns on our ad spend, having much bigger launches, right? And that started in the tech hardware kind of category. So all those tech hardware products would always go to Indiegogo and skip Kickstarter. And it's really interesting because the pendulum has totally turned now. So now today, 2021, I'd say that 9 out of 10 launches that we manage right now as an agency at LaunchBoom launch on Indiegogo first.
Wow.
And then go to Indiegogo on demand so we can continue the pre-sale. Mm-hmm. And we're not launching nearly as much on Kickstarter anymore as we used to, and mainly because we're getting better returns on the ads that on every project we launch on Indiegogo. Also, Indiegogo shares like the Facebook pixel data.
Right.
So it makes it so much easier for us to get a lot more strategic with the targeting when we're running live ads. So again, Indiegogo does a lot to like not only help make our jobs better here at LaunchBoom, but they actually help our clients drive more traffic. They've got different promotional offers. They also have like an internal ad team that can also drive additional traffic. So again, it's just really interesting because when I started this company, I would tell you Kickstarter all day, you know, and today it couldn't be more opposite.
And I love how you pointed out the advertising piece. Just for any listeners who don't fully understand how meaningful that is, that pixel, that line of code allows you to tell which ads, which audiences are converting, so you can reallocate.
That's right.
Of those spends towards. You can track all the way through and retarget in a more simple fashion by using Indiegogo. I definitely know there's categories where each one performs stronger, so that's not a blanket statement. I really like the way you broke it down there, Will. Also, just want to go back to the percentages because it's, again, so impressive to me. Google says an average conversion rate is 2.35%. We'll project accordingly at 2%. When you were saying, hey, 10,000 email addresses, we were getting about 4%. Now we have the reservation system. To hear 25% is insane from an analytical perspective.
And I don't mean to interrupt, but like that 25%, like that is conservative. Like we've seen as high as like almost 70% conversions on some of the funnels. But again, I always have to set conservative expectations,
Right.
right?
Don't want to
It,
overpromise.
but we have had much higher conversions than the 25%.
I mean, an open rate for email on average is 20%.
25% in many scenarios. So to hear about that as the actual action that follows is huge. Also, to go back to that 1 hour delivery, we've looked at the rule of thirds as told to us about crowdfunding years back, where if you're able to do a third of your goal in the first 24 hours, that sets you up to be able to hit it in your external goal, not even talking the internal, what you really want to hit in the first month. To be able to do the full goal, and I imagine setting that accordingly so that it's directly obtainable, but in the first hour and with 100% success rates is beyond notable. I just had to re-emphasize that.
Yeah, and I get how you're looking at it too, because you're looking at the equity side, right? The equity side, obviously, like you do have an internal goal that you want to hit, like you said, like a third. If you can hit a third pretty quick out of the gates, like you're in great shape, right? Because you're going to get more investor traffic. You'll continue to get better conversions every day you're live.
Shows social proof, sets up the right traction. Yeah.
Yeah, but on our side, like by being able to control the launch and get the whole project funded, it really does two things, right? It allows us to get top placement, get more of that organic traffic, but it also gives backers more confidence. When backers see a campaign funded, they know it's actually going to get made and delivered, right? So now it helps us convert more traffic on the backer side.
I imagine it helps for third-party validation. If you're looking to speak to press, influence groups, they're far more likely to talk about a deal that's already hit its goal.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's so important. I tell everyone I work with, like, you need to get your project funded at least in the first 24 hours. You have to do it. It's going to get you a lot more exposure, and then it's going to allow you to continue scaling faster. It's literally how it works on Kickstarter and Indiegogo.
I remember hearing some notes on the algorithm years back where if you hit 100% of the goal in the first day, it positions you for the whole section, or is something like that accurate?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's huge.
I'd say every campaign that does a strong 6 or 7 figures through the LaunchBoom system, every single one of them get funded the first day.
Mm-hmm. In the goal as a whole, we're kind of brushing over that. I mean, the success rates are not particularly high for companies that are doing reward crowdfund to hit the goal. So just the fact that it's hitting it and at 100 monumental. Just don't. Not saying that just to talk you up. Just from the numbers themselves, I have to point that out.
I appreciate that. And just to give you some more data on your side, Jason, you may not know this, but like only 0.1% of all Kickstarter and Indiegogo campaigns will exceed $1 million. 0.1%. And then only 1% of all launches on Kickstarter or Indiegogo will exceed 100,000. Right? So because of that vital testing we do first, TestBoom, which is like honestly the most important work we do, I can't stress that enough. It allows us to actually like allow our clients to understand whether or not crowdfunding even makes sense. Because the whole purpose of crowdfunding, in my opinion, is to be able to drive a significant volume order, right? So that you can get the capital you need to place that larger volume order with your manufacturer and actually make some margin, right? But the beauty of the TestBoom is that if we go through a test, and let's just say we're looking at the data, and the data is showing us that, wow, we may only be able to raise 50,000 on Indiegogo, that may not even be enough for them to pay for tooling and even like the smallest volume order where they can actually make and deliver the product without losing money. So the beauty of the test is that we're literally validating A, the demand, but B, whether or not crowdfunding and even really makes sense to continue forward, putting time and resources into that model. There's a lot of other ways to launch, as you're well aware of, Jason. So it allows us to really better protect our client, right? Because I've had some conversations after I've done the testing where my client comes in dead set on crowdfunding, and after I run it through my system, I open up my backer audiences. What I didn't tell you is we have over 4 million backer emails in our database from one or more campaigns that we've managed over the years, and we've retained access to all of them. So we can leverage those audiences for like lookalike audiences, direct targeting. It allows us to stretch the ad dollars so much further. But again, if we don't get the type of data we need to see coming out of the test, boom, then it really sets me up for a more productive conversation with the client, being like, hey, Jason, honestly, man, like you may want to go look at Amazon and go launch over there, right? And we've got preferred partners just like you, Jason, that we refer business to, depending upon what the need is and what the best direction is forward. But it's not always crowdfunding. That's my point.
Sure. And it's all about relationships, real communication, to be able to sit with the client, show them the projections, and give them the realization that crowdfunding is not for them. They're saving time, they're saving reputation. They don't have to do a public campaign that may or may not hit its goal, or even if it does, may not be into their best benefit. So it's great that you're able to establish that. And, to hear these numbers, I'm a data guy, to hear about the audiences, that's definitely what has allowed us to provide value to equity crowdfunding clients, is to be able to drive historical equity crowdfunding investors to deals. And we've gone to great to even invest in the creation of those audiences. So handpicking 4 million, by the vertical. I imagine there's a whole list of different filters that you could apply. For the ads, it's all about who you're reaching, and being able to take those super backers in many scenarios to the right deal, I imagine shows up in the conversion rate, the cost per backer, and all the metrics that your clients find the most meaningful.
Yeah, and Jason, like to the earlier point, everyone listening to this right now that potentially has a product that they're interested in launching on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, if you're talking to other agencies and they're telling you that it's going to be $1 million launch and it's going to be the best and they've done no testing at all, like they're 100% lying to you. Like you need to know that to be true, because there's no way to really know. Even me at LaunchBoom, with launching more crowdfunding campaigns than any other agency in the world today, literally, I still can't answer that question until I've done my proper testing. Once I've done the test, I can literally tell you, I can set you up for so much more success. I can help you understand what you're going to raise, how much it's going to cost to hit those bigger numbers, what your profit margin looks like at the end of the raise, and it's just it's the right way to validate and test new products.
And it's transparent. We say the same thing about our advertising campaigns, not exactly with the same test program, but looking at the initial stages of an advertising campaign as testing. And until I see it in the numbers, until I see analytics, it's really just assumption. So I'll get asked, hey, work, which ones won't? And I try to get the exact same answer you just did, because it is fact. And if I were to have picked or tried to pencil in which ones would work, which ones would not past, I would have been wrong in many scenarios. Campaigns that I thought would do pay were the strongest in many situations. Other ones that are outstanding, performed marginally. It all has to be based on the audience.
Yeah, and the good news today, Jason, on our side is that like we do have a ton of data now, right? So when I get a call from someone, let's just say they come to me, they've got an e-bike, it's a cool e-bike. They go, Will, what do you think we can raise? I can show them like half a dozen e-bikes in the last year that we've managed. I can show them some of the data to give them an idea of like what they can expect. And if the numbers make sense to them, then we'll still take it through a test. I still test it, right? Because without that test, I'm flying in the dark. It's a crapshoot. You don't really know. And the worst part is when you commit to managing someone's launch and you are flying in the dark. I've done that before. It's no fun. And when the ads don't scale, and which means you can't build a large enough audience for a low enough cost before the launch, during pre-launch, that's the toughest conversation, is when you're like, oh, hey, Jason, I know you just gave me all this trust in your money, and unfortunately my ads aren't doing well, so you're only going to lose this much money, right? Like that's the last thing any entrepreneur wants to hear. So again, yeah, I love the fact that like we have the same kind of mantra. Test is where you have to start. And once you've done the testing and you've got the data and the confidence that you're the right partner, then it's so much easier to launch, or in your case, optimize, right? And then once we're done with the launch and our clients are happy and they've got all the money out, they've delivered product to backers, that's the best time to then take them into scale, e-commerce. And then we can usually stay with our clients for years at that point.
Because it's that value-driven relationship. It's very present on both sides. And I want to ask you a couple questions, maybe get a few recommendations for founders for you. I know you guys are thought leaders in the space and have your own educational series, your own conference. at that with many of the top names in the entrepreneurial world in there. Speaking to testing a bit further, I don't know if we could go further into that process, or even if there's just channels that you recommend for founders to be looking towards, to be testing during their pre-launch or during their during their launch. What recommendations would you have for a founder, a marketing professional, or anyone working in the space in terms of what to test?
Yeah, it's a really, really great question. So basically, just to walk you through like the full test boom model from a high level, because I could spend all day on this, right? But just to simplify it from a high level, I mean, basically the first thing we do is we go through our messaging questionnaire where we get all the information from our clients. So they do a deposit. They give us all the information about the product, the prototype, and then we take that information here internally and we do a deep dive into that vertical. And we look at, okay, what makes this product unique, different, and superior than any other competitor in that space, right? And then we start to design messaging boards. And we start to look at like, okay, what audiences do we think will actually want to buy this product? What demographics, right? So now we start to build out different audience groups that we want to go test. And we have dozens of these messaging boards that we're building out so that now we can go create a photo shoot. And now we can take those photos, mix and match different headlines, messaging, so that now we've got like, dozens of assets specific to every individual audience group that we're going to go test. And then we review it with the client. And we make sure that our clients are aligned with us and that we're not missing anything, right? And so that's where we kind of tighten up the collaboration. We make sure that they're on board with the direction we're going to take this in. And once they approve the content, then we turn on ads. So when we turn ads on, we start with super small budgets, like honestly, maybe like $20 per ad per day, right? Very small. If the ads do well, we double the budget the second day. And we keep doing that until it stops performing. Now, I always tell my clients, because we share all our data, right? So like they see the dashboards, they see all the metrics, right? I tell everyone, don't freak out. If we spend $20 and the ad shits the bed, excuse my language, right? Because it's all part of the testing, right? So really what we're doing is we're creating tons of content. We're doing the heavy lifting through the test boom process. And not only are we looking to like drive clicks, but then we're also looking to convert on our lead funnels and reservation funnels. And there's a lot you can do there too, without getting into the weeds. But you can do split testing, where we create different lead funnels with different imagery, different call to actions to figure out, okay, now that we have the traffic here, how do we get them to actually submit their email and sign up to join your VIP community? That's step one. Because once we have that lead, now we get around spam laws and we can legally email market back to them, right? Or until they opt out. Now, as soon as we get that lead and we figure out how to maximize that conversion there, then we pull it right into the reservation funnel. It's seamless, but you're literally going into a new funnel at that point. And that's where we can test different lead offers to figure out what that sweet spot needs to be for average order value or value proposition in general to now get people to pull out their credit card and transact. Because it's not the dollar I really care about, Jason, it's the transaction. People don't do that unless they're serious about committing to a deal, right?
Yeah.
So we're doing all this work well before we're even thinking about turning on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. So the beauty of all these data points we're collecting is literally by the end of that test, we're also looking at like click-through rates. We're looking at email open rates. So we're also running like email marketing segments as soon as someone becomes a lead or reservation. And we're, to your earlier point, we're looking at the open rate. And for us, Jason, we're happy if we get 40% or higher open rates. That means our audiences are engaged, right?
Absolutely. Sophisticated funnels, beyond just a landing page and everyone gets the same email drip. You have them going from one funnel to the next.
Yep.
What do you do if it's not working? We use the term optimizing, but, pivots, what happens if that $20 a day isn't doing what it's supposed to? What is the most effective way to approach those next steps?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we sometimes find ourselves in that position, right? So when we take a new client into a test boom, we usually start, just so you know, Jason, with like a $5,000 ad budget. And that literally gives us more than enough budget to do all the micro testing first until we can actually scale, right? Mm-hmm. Now, as we're going through, let's just say the first test A, if those ads don't do well, we're going to have to go create new content. right? And we're going to have to, like to your point, optimize, pivot, right? Focus on maybe new audiences, right? And then micro test those assets. And if that doesn't work, we got to do it again, right? And if we find that we're burning through that 5K, and like let's just say we burn through like more than half that budget, and none of our testing is like it's not able to scale, like we're proactive in letting our clients know like, hey, this is what's going on here. It doesn't look like our ad system's working, so we can continue to test, right, and burn through your 5K, or we can stop what we're doing with the agency side, and we can actually give you support through our LaunchBoom Academy side. So what I haven't told you about yet is, I started LaunchBoom as like a white glove service for funded startups, right? But over the years, we've seen like just massive need on the do-it-yourself model, right? So earlier stage, founders, bootstrapping, minimal budgets, putting some of this stuff on credit cards, to be honest, right? So we created the same exact model as the agency, but we broke it down in like a do-it-yourself video tutorial, step by step. We provided all of our templates. So literally, like they have access to everything we have as an agency, but we do it in like a do-it-yourself format. And we've got about dozens of coaches on our team that jump on daily coaching hour calls with our students. So if we start the test boom process at the agency level and ads just aren't converting, we're unable to scale, like I want to fail fast, fail cheap, right? Like I don't want to just like blow ad spend, blow budget if I really don't think that we're going to be able to break through, right?
Sure.
So we're proactive in the communication to our clients. And then again, if our clients are like, you know what, Will, you guys have gone above and beyond here. Yeah, we've looked at all these audiences that we thought were the ideal target, and they're not converting. And if they're on the same page, then what we do is we give them a free license to the Academy program, right? And at that point, we give them all the assets, all the learnings from the test boom. So if they still want to crowdfund, they can easily crowdfund on their own. But what it usually means, Jason, it's a better way for us to set their expectation, because now I can say, Jason, this isn't going to do 200,000 or more, which is what you need to place your manufacturing. It looks like based on this data that you might only raise 50,000. And if that's okay for you, great. Here's a license to the Academy model. You still have access to all of our coaches and internal team members to help kind of hold your hand through that process if you have questions, which everyone does. Trust me, there's a lot of work that goes into the pre-launch prep. So at that point, they can launch on their own. The agency doesn't take any commissions off that raise because they're going to need every point of margin just to be able to produce and deliver. So again, I'd say the test boom is the best validator of demand, but also like realistically what can be raised through Kickstarter, through Indiegogo. And we can now kind of better set our client up for success, because now I can say, hey, it looks like we can go raise hundreds of thousands. Let's take this into LaunchBoom now, right? And we'll do it for you. Or it looks like it's going to be below 100,000 raise, right? Whatever that number is based on the data, and then I can say, hey, the best direction for you is not the agency. You'll lose money on this deal. Let's give you access to a free academy. And to give you an idea, the academy system is a $5,000 license. So if you go through the test boom and you still want to crowdfund, and the data wasn't strong enough to take you into LaunchBoom, you still can, and you've got that free license for support. So that's how I handle it.
That makes perfect sense. And I had to ask because I hear about how important the test portion of the model is before you take things to launch. I imagine there's a good amount of optimizing that takes place there. So that definitely gives me a lot of insight. We try to always come to the conversation with new ideas, being a solid marketing partner and looking at just as you mentioned, audiences, messaging, in some cases funnels, really trying to problem solve if it's not working. And I like how you guys set up the whole academy model, remove percentages, which is very admirable, by the way, and being able to say, hey, here you guys go. We're available throughout the entire process. We just want to make sure we're being very clear about what's being projected at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what we've done better than our competitors in our space is we're really, really good about setting the clear expectation before we even ask for a partnership of any kind.
Sure.
Yeah, and what I've learned more than anything, Jason, and you know this to be true, you have to do that, because these early stage entrepreneurs, a lot of them have a lot on the line.
Hmm.
And it's important that you support them to the best of your ability, because if you don't, they're going to be upside down before they get started, and it could put them in a really bad position. And being an entrepreneur, I've had some big wins like I discussed earlier, but I've also had some devastating losses, man. And those losses are honestly where I learned the most,
Yes.
and it's where I've been able to truly grow and,
Hmm.
and create a better business model here at LaunchBoom as a result. So you know the deal.
Oh yeah.
Being an entrepreneur is tough. It's not easy.
And you look at the success rates there. I mean, we want to see higher levels of wins across the board, from startups to crowdfunding to equity crowdfunding. We want to see those numbers, and we want to be able to play that role. That's why we try to put these actionable insights out there to the greatest degree. No one likes being on those calls when things are not working. Those devastating losses you're talking about, I've been there before. In many cases, our clients have been there before, either on their own or even with us. But being able to take those learnings and apply it to the next iteration, in many cases, has been that path to be able to get value from those moments.
I mean,
But I want to go back. Oh, go ahead.
that's where the breakthroughs happen, is when you
Yep.
keep pushing forward and you iterate. But yeah, what were you going to say?
Want to go back to this testing process and moving to launch, perhaps to scale as well too. But actually wanted to ask about scale when it is working. When you're saying these tests are beyond what we anticipated, and you're taking it to a live crowdfund, or you're working on the e-commerce afterwards. Do you have any exciting stories that you can share, or any type of recommendations for how to take things to the next level when everything is happening?
Yeah, I've got so many stories. And for everyone listening, if you go to launchboom.com, we have so much information about these stories. And I don't have enough time to dive into all of them, but yeah, I can share a lot of them with you. So basically, a great example, for example, is, we got a call from a campaign that was on Indiegogo, right? So they had never launched a campaign before. They launched on their own. It was a really cool product. This product's called Zebec, Xebec, Zebec. And it's a super cool like trifold screen that you can put on your laptop and turn your laptop into literally like three screens. It's awesome. It travels, it compacts. It's a great product, period. And so these guys were already on Indiegogo. I think they had like raised 50 grand, right? And they had no idea what they're doing. And they found us online, reached out to our team, and they're like, hey, can you guys like help us drive more traffic? Like we need to raise more money. So we started running some ads for them while they're on in demand just to drive some traffic, and we were getting great conversions. So we ended up helping them finish up their crowdfunding campaign, and then they were focused on manufacturing, right? Because we don't want to turn on ScaleBoom, the e-commerce, until our clients have enough inventory in-house to service the demand. Because the biggest difference, Jason, between crowdfunding and e-commerce is crowdfunding, backers are so happy to give you their money today, and they're patient. They know that they're getting a discount, and they're happy to wait months for you to figure out manufacturing and delivery. So it's much less stress on our campaigners or entrepreneurs or clients, because what they're doing is they're saying, hey, we're going to give you a discount off retail. We're going to give you this super cool product before anyone else. We're just asking that you wait for us to figure out manufacturing and delivery. That's crowdfunding, right? E-commerce is the opposite. E-commerce, basically, they want instant gratification. So if I buy on e-commerce right now as a consumer, I want that product by the end of the week at the latest.
Yep.
I don't care about you taking the time to manufacture, deliver it. I want it now, right? So again, so we had to like kind of postpone things once the Indiegogo on demand was done with Zebec. We had to give them some space and time to like get their manufacturing placed, get the product received and landed, and then once they had a good amount of volume, like once they had about 10,000 units, that's when we prepared, because we knew what their timelines were. So we were building out their e-commerce site on Shopify in preparation for the landed product. As soon as product landed, we turned it on. And literally, first 6 months, we did almost $3 million in revenue. Like
Huge.
crushed
Yeah.
it. And then since then, as you can imagine, it's been scaling hard. Really, that was last year. That was at the end of last year, and already the first 6 months of this year, it's flying. So that's why we call it Scale Boom, because when we get to Shopify, we can now tap into multiple channels on the advertising side. So
Mm-hmm.
for crowdfunding, specifically crowdfunding, all the ad spend goes through Facebook and Instagram on our side. Why? We get great data, we get the best bang for the buck there, right? And we're usually managing smaller budgets. But after crowdfunding, our clients will have hundreds of thousands, if not millions in the bank, right? And they can reinvest those profits back into the e-commerce once they're ready to start scaling. So I'd say the best expectation that I used when setting the e-commerce scale boom expectation with our clients is, hey, let's really focus everything on the crowdfunding. Let's get the money to your manufacturer so you have confidence in placing a bigger volume order, and let my team, spend the first 3-4 weeks building out your Shopify. So when that product's landed, we can hit the ground running and we can help you start blowing through that inventory. So we can help you place even larger volume orders, get better price breaks, bigger profit margins. And in addition to Facebook and Instagram, now we're able to, to Google AdWords, SEO, YouTube. That's what I mean by multi-channel.
Sure.
And we're also able to manage like much bigger budgets now, right? Because now we've got a 12-month marketing calendar built out with holiday promotions, monthly promotions. And then from there, we also create all new content relevant to the monthly promotions, right? The holiday promotions. So now the ads we're managing will usually provide even stronger returns, right?
Absolutely. So longer timeline, more channels, more personalized creative, looking
More
at
content.
calendar
Yep.
events, more content. Absolutely. So being able to use that and look at the big picture versus just the sprint in the crowd fund, now looking towards whole new milestones.
And a lot of our like earlier stage entrepreneurs that have successful crowdfunding launches that then transition over to the ecom team, I'd say the coolest part about our ecom director and team in general is that we do so much more than just like running their ecom like content and ads, but we actually like run the business.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is like we do like weekly syncs with our clients, and we're like, okay, listen, we're crushing it this month. We're literally like through more than half of your inventory. You need to place this much, and this is going to set us up for the next 6 months, right? Because like right now, I know it's only June, right? But from now until August 1st, with our current e-commerce clients, all we're doing right now is talking about the next 6 months of the year,
Mm-hmm.
specifically the holiday season, because you got to start the prep work now with the content, with the preparation, with the build outs, so that when we get there, now we're getting great returns on the ads and we're moving massive amounts of volume. And that's how we honestly all win in the end.
Sure. And it's more systematic. And I've seen a lot of groups, let's say, take pauses in between the reward crowdfund and really hitting the ground running on the e-commerce. So to have that model in there ready for them to go, to be able to make those recommendations and play a strong partnership role, not just as, hey, we're running advertising for you and we're an agency, but no, we're your partner in this and we're going to hit these next growth goals together.
Yep. And Jason, like one more piece that like we haven't really touched on yet, but like the reason I love the work you guys are doing on the equity crowdfunding side is because what we're seeing right now is like a lot of our LaunchBoom clients, they want to validate their products on Kickstarter, on Indiegogo, right? And once we raise hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars by the end of that crowdfunding campaign, now they have the capital to produce the product and deliver it to their backer, right? Now, what we're seeing a lot more of now are those clients then going over to WeFunder or
Mm-hmm.
Start Engine
Mm-hmm.
and running an equity crowdfunding campaign after they deliver
Mm-hmm.
to the Indiegogo and Kickstarter backers, right? Because now they can get a better return from all of that marketing spend and advertising spend from Kickstarter and Indiegogo, because they can convert those backers again on
Next
Start
stage of
Engine,
the funnel.
on WeFunder, right? Especially after they delivered a great product and experience to those Kickstarter and Indiegogo backers. So everyone out there listening, like it's all connected at the end of the day. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you guys have a consumer product and you guys want to crowdfund, even if you already have a successful e-commerce business, it's a great way to tap into a whole new market, get massive amounts of marketing and PR exposure, and your first thousands of early clients or customers, right? And then at that point, you manufacture, deliver, and you want to raise more money to accelerate your growth, leave your competitors behind in the dust. Well, an easy way to do that is to go into Start Engine or like a WeFunder. Those are the two biggest equity crowdfunding campaigns out there, or platforms out there. And that's where like, Jason can step in. He can, help manage that strategy, those ads. But remember, you can still convert those consumers now into investors, right? Because the consumer is more powerful today than they've ever been.
Absolutely. We talk about the premium audience for equity crowdfunding being user owners, customers who are also investors at a retail level, but on these equity deals. I could picture, even blueprint out a longer funnel where it starts with reward crowdfunding, moves to equity, takes those audiences back to, super users, super customers that are peer-to-peer marketers at that and sharing with everyone they know. Because at that point, hey, they're owners in this business. It's partially theirs. It's something that they're physically a part of. So definitely like those synergies, and glad that you pointed that out. And
But Jason, to your point though, like the Indiegogo Kickstarter backers are like, to your point, super loyal. So if all you do is just deliver a great product and they have a good experience, and then you hit them up saying, hey, thank you for backing us on Indiegogo. Hey, now we're doing an equity raise on WeFunder or Start Engine, right? And as a thank you, we want to make you the first person aware of the raise, and we're willing to give you a discount on that raise as an additional thank you, right? What we're seeing is you can get a massive conversion on those Indiegogo Kickstarter backers to dig deeper in their pockets and now become investors in the brand. And they're the best investors because they're going to keep buying your product behind it.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
And they've received the product at that point. They have that direct relationship with it because of their experience. They're seeing the growth. They want to be part of it and benefit from it, monetarily, or even just be part of the experience. And yes, get them on board, show the social proof in those early stages of the equity crowdfund, and then take things from there.
So yeah, Jason, like personally between us, I'm really excited to do even more together this year. There's just I still feel like crowdfunding is like exploding in a positive way. And I know I've been doing this for 7 years now at LaunchBoom, but what keeps this fun and exciting for me and my team is that we still feel like we're still just getting started. And today we have over 65 full-time employees here at LaunchBoom. We are the largest agency in the reward-based space. And it's fun because I still feel like we're just only beginning. We're still just getting started. Like there's still so much growth happening right now on both the equity and reward-based side, which keeps this super fun, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm still explaining to people what crowdfunding and equity crowdfunding are on a daily basis. So that tells me that there's more opportunity. The awareness is not fully there yet. More venture, groups are getting involved in the space, hearing about different banks and different types of programs that fund entrepreneurs pointing at these avenues, accelerators, what have you. So likewise, we feel like we're just starting here.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm just really glad that you brought me in here today. And again, I'm happy to do more of these too, just so you know, because I only covered like just a small part of it. And there's so many different topics here that I'd love to better explain for everyone listening.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Well, this has been more than insightful. I'm going to be having my team take thorough notes. We're going to be promoting it to our audience. If anyone's listening in and wants to get in touch with you, wants to, get involved, maybe test out their product, their organization with LaunchBoom, what is the best way for them to get in contact?
I'd say the best way to do this would be to go to launchboom.com. There, you'll see an apply button where you can tell us more about your project and actually talk to a live product launch specialist on my team. Because again, every product is unique and different. We look at a lot of different verticals, Jason, and really what we're more interested in is like learning more about where they are in that journey, right? Do they have that prototype? Sometimes they're not ready for us. Sometimes they still need help, and we can help point them in the right direction to get them what they need so they will be ready for LaunchBoom at some point. So go to launchboom.com /apply. That's the easiest way to access that page and submit your product information. And then you can literally schedule a call with a real person here on my team at LaunchBoom that can give you a lot more information.
And would definitely encourage that. Get in touch, get the information, talk through it. These guys have seen campaigns work, tests that had to be reiterated. I would definitely take advantage of that opportunity. And Will, want to thank you again. You have been an open book here, the numbers. It is no question to me how you guys are able to hit so many of these 6 and 7 figure campaigns. As you mentioned, that's the 1 out of 100, the 1 out of 1,000 at that. So thank you for giving us that great detail on your systems.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Excellent. And thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll look forward to seeing you next time.